Let's talk about the villain in bodybuilding today. Or is it actually really a villain? I'm going to explain everything and all there is to know about estrogen, at least in the simplest of forms, so that way you can make informed decisions on how to approach your estrogen management, how to approach your cycle design, how to approach your overall health. There's a lot of false beliefs around estrogen, especially within the bodybuilding community. You can hear anything from estrogen is the most amazing thing in the world to estrogen is the devil and you need to have it at zero. I'm here to tell you that it's actually another case of it depends. But what I will tell you, going on the extremes is actually be very detrimental to your health. I'm not really going to talk too much about dosing AIs or how to build a cycle around the estrogen management. I will give you the fundamentals, but I really want to drive home the importance and significance of estrogen, how it can keep you healthy, but also how it can harm you. Let's start with the middle. Where should estrogen be? Generally within the reference range, in my opinion, is where almost all markers should be. When you're dealing with hormones, especially sex hormones, testosterone, prolactin, all those sorts of things, if you're manipulating them directly, your body is trying as hard as it can to keep things within range. That should be your ultimate goal. For instance, testosterone converts into estrogen, correct? Through the aromatase enzyme, all right? That varies by genetics, by the amount of testosterone, the amount of body fat, the liver health and function. There's so many things that play into how much testosterone converts to estrogen. But what we do know is that your body is trying to do whatever it can to keep estrogen within a manageable level because estrogen is toxic, it is carcinogenic, and it affects a lot of tissues and organs within the body. Similar to anything that happens within the body, your body's trying to keep within a homeostasis. That is a state of sameness, of just normality. And what happens is a lot of people try to skew things too far one direction or the other, and your body's not designed that way. That's why going back to the beginning when I talk about estrogen being on the extremes, your body's not accustomed to that. It cannot handle that, especially for long durations. So the goal should be to keep your estrogen within a normal range and within a reference range that is deemed acceptable by you and your coach. Now I'll go on a different video talking about reference ranges, but understand that a reference range is essentially a population pool, the average of their results, right? So that doesn't necessarily mean it's right or wrong or the healthiest, but keeping it anywhere from the 30 to 50 or even 40 range around that number is probably going, and that's in American units, okay, is going to be the best sort of place to keep your estradiol or E2. Now we're not going to talk about E1 or E3, we're going to focus around E2. So now that we know where the body wants to keep estrogen and roughly where we want it, which is just in the normal range, what happens when it goes one way or the other? When you start to crash estrogen all the way down to zero, it really starts to bring some undesirable effects. It's going to affect your sleep, going to affect your anabolism and how you're able to put on muscle, your joint health, your lipid profile, your cholesterol, right? And on the flip side, when you go too high, it can do the exact opposite or sometimes similar things, just in a more extreme manner. Excessive water retention, right? Increased blood pressure, mood swings, all those sorts of things. So we see here that when estrogen gets too high or too low, it doesn't affect us in a good way. I don't know anybody, whether their testosterone is through the roof or in the tank, when they have estrogen at a normal level, it causes issues. And that's really the gist of what I want to drive home today, is you'll hear supposed doctors, we all know who, especially this one doctor is, who's not really a doctor around social media, who talks about, you want your estrogen as high as you can because it's going to increase IGF, insulin-like growth factor 1. But in reality, estrogen is not anabolic in itself. It's carcinogenic and toxic. And then you'll have other people on the end of the spectrum who say, you don't want to take anti-estrogen or aromatase inhibitors, right? Because they in itself are dangerous. And I'll get into another video about AIs. But what they fail to realize, it's not essentially the medication itself, it's what it does to your estrogen. When your estrogen is crashed, that's where all those secondary, tertiary effects come into play that can be detrimental or deleterious, that's the word I was looking for, to your health. So all that you're trying to do in your cycle design, or even just your general health, is keeping estrogen within a normal range that your body can manage. Some people will have a higher conversion to estrogen from their own natural testosterone or exogenous or injected testosterone, whereas somebody with the same amount, applying that same amount of testosterone to that body, might not convert estrogen as high. I know even for myself, at varying stages of my maturity and growth and age, I've had different estrogen levels for different amount of testosterone. For example, I used to have extreme side effects at anywhere from anything over 200 or 300 milligrams of testosterone per week, to where now running upwards of 600, 800, I don't have any breakouts in my skin. I don't have any nipple sensitivity. I might have some excessive water retention, right? Because the test is so high and I'm not managing my estrogen. But once I begin to manage my estrogen, bring that within that stable level, that reference range, a lot of that tends to go away. Now, there needs to be some estrogen present in order to create muscle, to build strength, to reduce body fat and keep it in a manageable range, right? But again, only as a necessity. So if at all anything you got from this video is this: do not listen to the extremes. Everybody in bodybuilding who's trying to make a name for themselves try to go one way or the other. We know that keeping the body within a relatively normal state, even when androgens are high, even when we're supplementing with peptides or anabolics, keeping the other things secondary to that in a more stable level is going to provide better health markers. The second you let those things start to get out of whack, whether too extreme too low, too extreme too high, in order to supplement the androgens, you start to run into a world of problems. So shut out the noise. Understand that your body works best when keeping things within a manageable situation. Only work with variables that you need, and only do what you need to keep estrogen in that manageable level. Do not vilify estrogen, but also do not glorify it. Understand its role and its place in health, and understand how it can affect you in a negative manner. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe to my channel. In addition, if you'd like to work on me one-on-one or understand what my process of coaching is, feel free to fill out the application link in my bio. Or if I sent this to you via DM, reach out and be like, hey, Ian, I'd love to know what it'd be like to coach with you. I think your information is great. I'd like to see what the process is, and I will happily show you.